Hello, you multi-Mandalorian maltsters, and thank you to Jedi67 for the malt mention introducing Ralphie Review 1054. Yes, you heard me right. Here in the Whiskey Bothy, we are so far down the road with our whiskey reviews that we've actually now opened and reviewed 1054 bottles of whiskey. So I'm just going to pour a glass of this particular one before I introduce what it is, and just say a big thank you to our sponsors of today's video, which are you. Yeah, you. I have a very simple channel here. I don't have the ads in the middle. I don't pepper my videos with frequent ads, although YouTube would like me to, because it earns them money in advertising, and that's why, even though you're probably subscribed, you don't even get notification when a new video appears. Why is that? Because I'm low priority on the algorithm, because YouTube don't make so much advertising money out of my channel, because I only have adverts at the beginning, at the end, and none in the middle. So you're the ones, you're sponsoring this. So if you do want to go any further with support, I do have a Patreon channel, and it's got extra content, live streams once a month, additional videos, and I go into more depth. Yep, there you have it. I'm not going to change this channel much. This is the time of year where I give a lot of thought to what will be my goal, my mission in the following year, because we're mid-November now, so 2025 is not that far away, and my decision is that I'm not even going to try and be flattering about mainstream brands and keep telling about Johnnie Walkers and Chivas Regal. There's really no point. Frankly, they're good brands, but they're not good whiskies. Just so as you understand that, so as you really kind of let it sink in. My audience is not the passive consumer. My audience, malt mates, that's you. You're people who are genuinely interested in whiskey. You genuinely want to learn more. And so what I'm doing, instead of putting ads or trying to just add extra ads in the middle of the video, which is a nuisance, I'm just putting out an additional video at the moment, this time of year, called 3 Great Whiskies. Short, sweet, and designed to engage and connect with someone who's an occasional whiskey buyer but genuinely wants to know more, but they're not a fully fledged malt mate like yourselves. Whew. Shall we move on with this whiskey review? Oh, why don't we? Natural colour. That is a natural coloured whiskey. It's a blended malt. My last review was of a blended malt of the Old Perth. They are overlooked, they are underrated. With the quality of the casks, the prices are catching up with single malts. So be aware of that. But this particular version is an independent bottling called Timorous Beastie, the Cheese Cellar. It's bottled at 48%, it's non-age statement. It's natural colour, non-chill filtered, says so in the back. So it's on the label. And this has been given a port finish. In my opinion, a tiny, tiny port finish. It hardly even registers, frankly. But what appeals to me, why I bought it, is because the actual core whiskies are really good quality. And it's an old-fashioned style of whiskey, which, particularly from the big corporate multinational companies, you don't see so much of now. Because they're a little bit drier, a little bit more sour, a little bit more bitter, a little bit more voluminous in flavour. and therefore more of a challenge when we connect with them. Now, just to give you a context here, this is from an independent bottler called Douglas Lang. They have a Timorous Beastie series. I have to say, I think it's a pretty good series. And it's one which tends to be off people's radar. But hence this review, I want to put it back on your radar as an option. This is the sort of bottle that you will not see in Costco. You will not see it in the big chain shops because there's not enough volume to be of interest. This is one you find in the small specialist shops where you also find the most interesting whiskies, frankly. It's just the way it is. So what have we got in the nose? There is a slight cranberry note, but it tends to be really assimilated in with a soft, slightly creamy barley biscuit, more sweet biscuit than savoury biscuit nose. It's got that kind of shortbread note to it. Vanilla, absolutely. So the primary casks for maturation here, and you can see that in the appearance, have been ex-bourbon casks and a good proportion of fresh ex-bourbon casks. Has it worked? Yeah, it's working really well. I can't tell you what the single malts that make this up are, but this is a small batch release. There's a total of... Where's my steampunker so I can actually read the writing? I'm not criticising anyone else's writing because it's bad enough on my own bottles, actually. 4,200 bottles. So it's far from being a single cask. But at 4,200 bottles, you're talking about... Oh, excuse me. Rightio. Hello. Can I help you? Is this what you're looking for? This is what you're looking for? Oh yeah, big crafty bism. I've not chucked them put them in the floor yet. Not put them in the wee rug. You ready? In you go. Will you leave me alone now, Billy? I'm speaking to the malt mates here. Thank you. I was about to say wet cat because it's a little bit drizzly outside and the cat's coming. I can smell the cat's fur and it's putting me off my dram. Right, this happens. It's a wardrobe malfunction of a sort, but we'll quickly get back on track. Where's the water? I'm going to add water soon after I've tasted this. Tangy, super tangy, bitter, beautifully soft, bitter, sherbety. Reminds me of a little bit of Tam Novulen, Benrinnes, that sort of style of Speyside single malt. But I do think there's some Highland single malt in there too. Honestly, I think there's the Speysides. It's difficult to say because with the single cask, you can get such a variability and difference from the engineered release that you get from big companies, from official bottlers, that sometimes you can be completely thrown as to what the whiskey actually is. Do you know, this could be Scapa. It could. So I'm not going to second guess it. You'll probably find the information tucked away somewhere in a corner. And I have to say, I'm reluctant to kind of email the company and say, right, what are the casks here? I'm going to review your whiskey, etc. because I might not be getting the full picture. What I can tell you is if there was a port maturation, it could well be white port because there's been quite a number of white port casks floating around the independent bottlers recently and used by some official bottlers, including Glen Scotia, with great success. So we're off to a good start. It's a little bit closed up now because it's higher strength. It's not quite 100% proof, but 48%, it is quite high. Let's add the water. Now, when you're adding water, particularly as you're learning the ropes, if you tip the glass sideways and gently put the water in, you'll see the swirling effect. You will see what's called viscimmetry. Already, by the way, you can see there's a slight cloudiness appearing in this whisky due to the natural oils and proteins in it. This is a really good sign. What we're getting is authentic natural whisky. It's not trying to be anything particularly fancy. It's really just a standard series of casks which have been finished a little bit in port and bottled, and I have to say, very competently done. Now we're getting a little, having added water, now we're getting a little bit more complexity on the nose. We're getting some floral and wood spice coming along here. I'm not sure quite where it's coming from, but I think it's probably that some of the composition of this is from an older cask, which is kind of eccentric and quite sort of almost yeasty, barley biscuit graininess, intense graininess. It adds significantly to the complexity and the worth of the experience without actually overwhelming it and making it unpleasant. And this is a common tactic with independent bottlers. When they're bottling small batch, they'll have an array of, say, about 8 to 10 casks, and then they'll get 2 finisher casks, which are either older or eccentric or both, so they don't have a standard flavour profile. And that's what it gives the identity and the signature to this particular bottling. I have to look at that. That is moving so fast. This is minimal filtered, very commendable. Getting some good solid Scotch mist here. The nose reminds me of an old blend which is no longer available, which was always held in high regard. Came from Glenmorangie, called Bailey Nickel Jarvie, or BNJ for short. I've actually just bought a bottle at auction, which I plan to review in 2025 for sentimental reasons, but I'll leave that for the moment. But BNJ is a really old school, dry, astringent whisky, which is not suitable for the contemporary over-sweetened palate, which has been bred on Crunchy Nut cornflakes and McDonald's takeaways. No. It's for people who actually, in the old days when people ate real food, you know, ask your granny. Granny and grandpa will tell you, when they actually used to cook their own food, all the meals from scratch. I think it's a habit you should kind of invest in, by the way. It's something I'm certainly doing more of. Taste. A luscious, melon, grape, muscatel grape, banana, soft banana, confectionery banana, kiwi fruit, a little bit of guava in the background. This is such a delightful singular blended malt. So it's a blend of not just malt from one distillery, but from several distilleries. And it's really, really working. It's giving you a delightful, gentle but intense, old style, light malt whisky, which is not a lot. You don't see so many of these at the moment, although the independent bottlers do tend to engineer them in their particular care for a lot fewer casks than you would find in an official distillery, where they're bringing hundreds of casks together at once. This is not happening with independent bottlers. They have bought the casks on the secondary market from a wholesaler or from the distillery direct, probably with old contracts. They have their own warehouses and they just bring on the casks until they're ready. The blending skills in independent bottlers should never be underestimated. They have tremendous experience, and experience is everything in bringing casks together. It's not just the flavour, it's the form and the style. And there's so much to learn, it's fascinating. Anyway, let's nose this, taste this, and give it a malt mark. I've added, and it's not often I say this, I've added a bit too much water. I should have added half of what I did. So if you're adding any water to this, malt mates, just add at most half a teaspoon, so 2.5 millilitres. That'll just make it pop nicely. At the moment, it's lovely and soft, but it's the edge that it had, particularly neat, isn't quite there anymore, and yet it does need water, but very, very little. Very little. Ooh, I'd like another taste of this before I commit myself to a malt mark. The nose is softening. There's a little bit of green pineapple coming in along with the soft banana. So the fruits are tending to kind of dominate it. The perfume and the floral note has diminished surprisingly quickly. So there's some young cask in here. I would say 6-7 year old single malt. It's part of the blend. Very creamy. A little bit of lemon cheesecake actually. Grapefruit rind, definitely. The pineapple, imagine sour pineapple. There's a little bit of that in there. I could go on with a few more descriptors, but I'm going to cut to the quick now. Let's give this a malt mark. Is it worth buying? Yes, it is. I'm giving this an 83 out of 100. That's a blended malt mark. It's a good blended malt, and when you pop back again shortly for Ralphie Review 1054 Extras, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about blended malts and independent bottlers, because it's useful stuff that we all need to know.